we've got here is failure to communicate.
But so, all right. So, what I want to say first is for, the people, the two or three people who have watched the other podcasts, I'm going to change it around a little bit. And the main reason was that I couldn't, it was really hard finding people who were on the other side politically, who I thought could have a decent conversation. So that's hard to do. And plus it's hard to schedule it. I mean, a lot of, we all have busy lives, so it's hard to get people where it works for the same exact time. So I'm going to just try out, like, talking one-on-one with somebody, which I don't know. I actually think that'll be a better thing. But I didn't make a actual, for the podcast, I didn't actually pick a certain topic, but I did have a couple questions that I wanted to ask for you. And I really wanted to talk to you because, I mean, from Facebook when I'm talking to you and stuff, like, I've always felt that you have your beliefs, but you're never pushy about it. You don't, get on people about it. You don't yell at people. You don't talk to them rude. And so I like talking to you on Facebook because I know you're not, whether you disagree with me or not, you're going to be cool about it. And which I wish more stuff like that happened. So the first question, we'll start off easy, is basically, how did we get here? Start off easy. Right? What do you feel caused us to get to the point that we're at right now? I think most people would agree that regardless of if you like the people who are in power, things are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly a divide right now in our country. And what we need more of is platforms like this where we can have conversations, because, I don't care who you are. You're going to be right at times. You're going to be wrong at times. And learning it's incredibly important to that process. And that's what I appreciate about you, and we certainly don't always agree. There's certain things we totally agree on. But I just think that, in our country, it's like, it's not okay to lose. And I think that's why we're at where we are. You look at, I'm a huge boxing fan. First time an undefeated fighter gets a loss, they're a bum. They're a chump. It's okay to lose. And it's okay to be wrong. You look at George Washington, he lost. He totally lost, terribly. And then he ended up being the hero of the Revolutionary War. It's what you learn from the mistakes. And the pursuit of that, kind of that Socratic way of learning, needs to be explored more. I don't care what side of the aisle you are on. We can learn from each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I never thought about it that way, especially the boxing thing, which, being a fight fan, you think I would. But I agree with you in the fact that obviously, I think I'm a pretty patriotic person. If anyone's seen my Facebook pictures where I literally dyed my beard red, white, and blue.
Awesome.
Like, yeah, it was awesome. But, I mean, I understand loving your country, and I do. But I don't think it's wrong to say, okay, well, I don't like this about the culture. And one thing I do not like about the culture of America is the fact that, and, you put it better than I did, but we only want a winner. If you're a loser, it needs to be that way. Like, you have to hate the other person. And we see that in politics, but it's always been that way with sports. Like, if you're a Red Sox fan, you have to hate the Yankees. And I never got that. I grew up a Red Sox fan, and every once in a while I do the usual, like, oh, the Yankees suck, but they didn't. Like, I don't think it's wrong to say, yeah, they're good. Like, why do I have to hate them?
Right. No, I mean, it's a big part of our culture is that, we want to win. Now, I'm gonna go back to, you talked about you're a UFC guy. I'm a boxing guy. I love boxing. I love the sweet science. I think it's a better sport. However, the reason right now that the UFC is more successful is that it's okay to lose. So the top guys are fighting the top guys, or
That's a
the
good
top
point.
women at the same time. You know, in boxing, everyone's trying to keep that zero, because if they blemish their record, you know, they're not getting the big money fight. And it's all about money versus, you know, I'm going out to be the best. And we've gotten away from that. That's what America's supposed to be about, is about being the best. And, you know, people mistake sometimes if you're on the other side of the aisle, in terms of being, you know, if you're a Democrat, people think people aren't patriotic. I'm incredibly patriotic. You know,
I know, I hate when they
look at
say
you. You look at what I wear. You know, I have, you know, American bathing suits. I have my my gator is American flag. You know, but it just because it doesn't mean that I'm not patriotic because I'm a Democrat, or I am because I'm a Republican. You know, people have interests, and that's what's kind of hurting our country, is that, you know, the people that are in power don't really care about this country. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, they have their own agenda. So it's about their interests.
It you know, back to the fight game, that's really true. When MMA really started getting popular in the early 2000s, there was a organization called Pride, and they were really popular over in Japan. And all the fighters liked fighting over there, at least all the interviews I did. And the whole point was, win or lose, the crowd respected you. Like, as long as you went in there and did your best and fought like a warrior, like, you know, the samurai spirit, they respected you. Like, guys would fight all the time. They'd do all these matchups. You'd lose 3 in a row, but people would still go to your fights. Like, I wish we had that culture where we respected the effort as much as the result.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I look no farther than, I think we do at times. You look at football. Football is a sport that's very respected across the United States by just about everybody. And when people watch the games, you know, they have their teams, they root for their teams, but they understand, you know, the grind. They understand what these people are putting themselves through. And, you know, as much as they might be rooting for the team, or they're rooting against the other team, I do think that they respect the other team at the end of the day and what they went through. They might hate the team, but they definitely respect them. And I would like to see that more in politics. It's okay to really disagree and really hate, you know, someone's opinion. However, where are they coming from? Are they coming from do they want to improve the country? Because that's what it's about. And we can disagree all we want, but if we agree that both, you know, whoever you are, if we're trying to improve the country, that's what America's about. You know, and
Yeah.
that's when we've been successful. We've united. You look at World War II, no one was looking across the aisle.
Yeah.
It was about coming together and finding a way to win, but you really had to find a way to win, not win for what you wanted.
Yeah. I do honestly believe that one of the things that got us here, like, you know, I know a lot of Democrats say, like, oh, Trump has ruined the country. And I don't really like to give too much of my opinions, you know, or the goal was not to give too much of my opinions on this podcast. But I do think that Trump made it happen faster than it would have. But I think we were on a course for something like this happening anyway. And I really honestly think it started with the media. Like, I don't like using the word fake news, especially from someone who lies just as much, if not more. But the news, it started out, it was always, okay, you know, political, oh, it was kind of nasty. You'd say something bad, but you still had like a foundation of some kind of respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, like, the news kept, like, you can't, I always say that people mostly will go out and vote off of their emotions. And the emotion that mostly makes people move more than anything else is anger. So you're on the news, obviously. I mean, you know, a lot of people won't admit this, but Fox, their job is to get the Republicans in power. CNN, their job is to get the Democrats in power. I mean, I honestly think it might as well be state run. But it started out with, oh, they'd say this, they'd say that. But now it's, well, this person's going to ruin your life. Like, they really, the hatred that they've made you hate the other side. Like, because that's what gets people to vote. They get angry. So it started out as working, but then like you created this monster of like, I mean, again, we hate each other. You know, so many people out there absolutely hate each other.
Yeah.
Or
No,
they
I
say,
think you nailed it when it comes to the news and when this started. You're looking at probably the early '90s to mid '90s when the news became more corporate. People started investing into the news to try to push for what they wanted reported to help their interests. And I feel like it started off a little more innocent, and it's kind of pushed its way through to where we are now, where it's completely political. You're going to hear what you want to hear on the right. If you listen to Fox, you're going to hear what you want to hear. On the left, if you listen to CNN, it's as simple as that. But this has been a long time coming. You're not wrong. And
yeah,
it's been a buildup where before it was like you may not like what's on the news, but it was a little more. There's always been an agenda at some point, and that's why government's always regulated the news to some extent about what can be and what cannot be broadcasted. But it's been vastly changed since the '90s.
yes. Well, and I posted this on Facebook a while ago, and I didn't even know about this until after 2016. But there was in 1987, I just Googled it, and I shared a link a long time ago on Facebook, but it was called the FCC Fairness Doctrine. And apparently it was a law saying that the news stations, they had to be non-biased. Like you had to have equal time for Republicans, equal time for Democrats. You couldn't give your opinion on the situation if you were the broadcaster. You basically let them talk. And apparently Reagan was one of the people who switched that in 1987. But if you look it up, for anyone who wants to see it, it's the FCC Fairness Doctrine. There's a whole Wikipedia page on it. And yeah, it's like after that, early 90s, stuff like that, you started doing it. I actually even think shows that I like kind of pushed the envelope on it, like The Daily Show with Jon Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jon Stewart a lot. I think that show is awesome. But I will be honest, thinking like, well, they kind of started pushing like it was not a real news thing. It was supposed to be like a comedy show, but they got very political, and it kind of drove even regular news stations to kind of do stuff like that, and it's it was a good show, but it kind of pushed us to a point where you see that all the time, it's
go ahead. Sorry to cut you off. I think it's interesting you brought that up. What's funny is that that show started off as kind of a spoof on the news, kind of mocking the news, and as it evolved, what was kind of scary is that if you watch that, the Daily Show back then with Jon Stewart on there, it was closer to being accurate than either CNN or Fox.
Yep.
That's when you realize there's something way different going on. And I mean, at the same time, it was getting politicized, and then it started. I think it's moved much farther to the left as the years have gone on. But however, at one point, the Daily Show may have been one of the more accurate and real news out there, which is kind of sad. That should not be the case ever.
Yeah, well, I remember there was a really good interview with Jon Stewart and Tucker Carlson when he was on the other show, where basically he's saying that they're saying like, oh, you did this. He's like, we're a comedy show. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're comparing us to you. And he says this is a funny line. He's like, dude, my show follows puppets making crank calls. He's like, I'm not a news station. Don't compare me like a news station. But yeah, it kind of went that way. Like it's one of those things like, it kind of sets the precedent of what's going to happen. Like people see that, oh, they're getting ratings. People want to see that. And then you start going that way.
Yeah.
I'm a big South Park fan. They have this whole episode on like lowering the bar when you see all this like reality TV. And they blame themselves in the episode. They're like, maybe this is kind of our fault. Like South Park, we really, you know, lowered the bar in a lot of ways, and we kind of feel responsible for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're entertaining and you look at the guys and females on TV right now who do well in the news, you know, you look at Cuomo. I mean, the guy he's put together. He looks good. He's funny. That's gonna sell, and he speaks incredibly well. You look on the other side. You know, pick whoever you want to pick. You know, Tucker Carlson. You know, he's got a sense of humor, and I feel like everything has changed towards, if I can entertain and push what I want to push, that's going to sell it more than telling the truth. Where, you know, the news was way more dry when we were growing up, 80s, 90s. The personalities
No one wanted to
in the
watch
news
the news.
weren't personalities. They weren't. You didn't laugh when you watched the news. Now it's like I don't care what side you watch. Like you know, you can laugh whether you agree or don't agree with them, but there's a piece of entertainment there that sells, and they've caught on to that we can hook, you know, the people that we want to hook based off of entertainment versus the truth.
Yes. Yeah, I do totally agree with that, and that's kind of why I say that, you know, what brought us here is, you know, everyone wants to blame someone else, but really it's a little bit of all of our faults. So people will complain about politicians. They lie all the time. Well, why do they lie all the time? Because we vote for the ones who lie. Like if they tell us what we want to hear, we'll vote for them. So then, you know, if you have someone who's running for a political office and they're like, I'm telling you the truth, you're not listening to me. Everyone's cheering for this person who says, I'll make your life better. Well, whose fault is it really? You know, we're giving our attention to these people who are pushing that, right? Again, with the Trump, I'm going to say something that probably no one's going to like, but I honestly feel this. I honestly feel there's not a person in this world who likes Donald Trump. But I do feel there's many people who love that the Democrats hate him. Like,
yeah,
you have to, and I'll say that as much as, you've heard me say on Facebook, I talk to people on both sides. And I know hardcore Democrats who are like, oh, I'll never talk to those people, and vice versa. I talked to a very hardcore Trump supporter recently. And like, they even admitted to me, he's like, yeah, I think he's kind of a tool, but hey, he gets the people pissed off, and I like that. Like, they love that the Democrats hate him. Like, they just love that. So but him as an actual person, you know, like, I don't think they care.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a variety of Trump supporters, just like there's a variety of, I was a big Obama guy, not to push Obama, and he certainly had his faults as well. But I think with Trump, I think that's one kind of supporter that, hey, look, you know what, if it bothers Democrats, that makes me happy. There's another Trump supporter, a group that says, you know what, I don't like the way he goes about it, but it's way closer to my values. That is not so much that he demonstrates my values, but that's my party. My party, you know, that's going to help my party get the, you know, the things that I want. So whether it's, you know, religious values, could be economic. So I think there's interest groups that they don't agree with how he goes about business, but if he can hold office, that makes them feel that, you know, it's better than the alternative. So I think that's where we're at this point. So, you know, as long as you get that ticket, I think people are going to vote on party lines. And, you know, I'm proud to say that I've never been like that. Yeah, I'll be the first one. I voted for George W. Bush. I know that's probably not very popular, you know, amongst the political party I'm affiliated with. But I voted for him in 2004. You know, he had some things that I didn't necessarily agree with, but he was a better candidate than the guy he ran against. And I liked, you know, his response to 9/11. He might have made some mistakes, and he may have pushed some disinformation, which obviously we found out about later. But at the same time, like he was presidential. I felt like we were safe with him in office. So
yeah, it's yeah, I know what you mean. I actually I never voted. I voted one time for the actual president of the United States, and that was in 2000. It was George Bush. Now, I was only 18 at the time, and the only reason I did it was because I heard that who was Al Gore? Yeah, it was Al Gore wanted to shut down a bunch of areas to ATVs, and I was rode motorcycles at the time, so I was like, oh, I guess I'll vote for Bush. Like I was 18, I didn't think about it, But yeah, it's Obama. I actually never voted for Obama, but there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with, and not even just him, but the party in general. But I'll be the first to admit, from what I see, and I could be wrong, it's just what I see on the internet or TV, I think Obama's a cool guy. Like, I think he seems like a nice guy. I think he seems like a good dad. I think he seems like a good speaker. I could be totally wrong. Behind the scenes, he could be a total jerk. But I always say that about Trump too. Like, well, maybe he's a super nice guy behind the scenes. I don't know. I'm going to go off of what you show me on TV. And on TV, I think you act like a jerk. So that's what I'm going to think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough sometimes. Someone's ability to seem, the word is presidential. What is presidential? I don't know. Is that the ability to con people? So that could be, maybe Trump's telling the truth because he is who he is. He's like, this is how I am. I am a jerk. This is who I am, but hey, I'm at least being honest with you. That could be the truth, right? Where people could look at Obama and say, well, yeah, he certainly seems to really care about everybody, but maybe behind, so it's like the thought of maybe he might not be that way behind. But what I do really think is that you look at a lot of the politicians that we've had in the past, whether they were the president or were ran for presidency and didn't get the nomination or whatever the case may be. I really do think that you look at the previous candidates and presidents, and they had the best interests of the country. I think you'd have to be crazy to say John McCain didn't, bleed for this country and would have done anything to make sure that this country was great. He didn't have to say, make America great. He was the reason America was great, just by, his sacrifice and everything he went through to make sure we are where we are right now. John Kerry, another guy who I didn't vote for, another guy that, definitely bled for this country, loved this country. But I just like the policies of the other candidate better. So I think, to me, that's what's missing right now, is that I really don't, I can't trust that many of the politicians, especially the politicians with the most power at this point, whether it's Pelosi, Trump, I'm drawing a blank on the Senate.
No one worth talking about, really.
Yeah, no. The guy from Kentucky, whatever. They're all special interest people. So I don't think they have the best interest of the country, and that's concerning.
Yes. Well, I actually say that to people. There's a lot of people I've talked to who, and I'm not going to name any names, but so-called news people, they have their podcast, they have this, and I'm like, I say to them when they'll share a post or a Twitter video, and I'm like, I don't even believe these people believe what they're saying, right? Like, I'll give one example because he's pretty extreme. Milo Yiannopoulos, is that his name?
I'm sorry, can you say it one more time?
Milo Yiannopoulos.
Okay.
He's like a hardcore right guy, but he basically, I think he's just playing a character. He's just playing a
Mhm.
character. Like, he doesn't really mean it. So I think there's a lot of people on the right or left who, you know, people will share their tweets, they'll share this, but they're just saying what they want to say to gain support for their side. Like, nobody's real about saying, hey, this is what I really think. Um, I don't think there's been any podcasts like that, but I personally like the Joe Rogan podcast, where I think he just says what he really believes. He doesn't care
Mhm.
whether it's a Democratic way or a Republican way. It's just, hey, this is what I think about a situation, where a lot of other people don't.
Yeah, no, I like Joe Rogan. I actually like Howard Stern as well. And I think what those individuals have is that they connect with the people they interview with, whether they agree with them or not. They find a way to open them up so that they feel comfortable talking, and almost to the point where it may not be that they are doing that because they like them. They're doing that so that they can get the truth out of some of these people. So I appreciate the way Joe Rogan goes about business and the way Stern goes about business. Sometimes it's crude, but often it does open. Even like, I watched Howard Stern and Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, very closed person, opened up big time with Stern. And
Yeah,
he got everything he wanted out of her when he interviewed her.
I've never been like a regular Stern listener, but they say that about him. Like, just the way he talks to people is he gets stuff out of them that they wouldn't say to other interviewers.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about Joe Rogan is it shows that you can have a big fan base without playing that character that just pushes one idea. I believe Joe Rogan's podcast is one of the biggest podcasts in the United States.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't do anything out of control. He doesn't, play what most things do. They have to do this extreme, crazy stuff to get people to watch. But he has a lot of listeners. So, what was the other thing you said about? About Stern. All right. I honestly feel a lot of the arguments people have is just because they don't talk to people the right way. So, I mean, especially you see it on Facebook, and I think it happens on Facebook because you're not right in front of a person. And so if I'm sitting down with you, say we're having dinner or we're at the bar, and I'm looking at you and I disagree with you, I'm going to talk to you a certain way. I'm not going to be openly rude, probably. But if you're online, you'll just say, you're sitting in your living room, you'll just say something that is totally disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think people realize, like, you're not going to have a constructive conversation with somebody if you just treat them like crap from the beginning. Right? So let's say I was a Republican and I was talking to you and you were a Democrat. You said something about, gun laws. And right away I was like, dude, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, that would probably set you off. You would just say to yourself, I don't want to talk to this guy. And even if you did agree with something I said, you probably would be less likely to say that because now you're mad at me because I just disrespected you.
Mm-hmm.
So just the conversations that people are having, I don't know. I think they're pointless. I'll watch something on the news, a Democrat or Republican, they start the conversation and right away they're rude to each other. And I'm just like, well, what's the point of watching this anymore? Like, you're not going to get an actual discussion. Do you ever, you probably don't, but you ever watch Steven Crowder?
I don't.
Okay. I do actually watch him, and not a fan, but I watch him because, again, I like to, even people I don't like, I like to listen to their stuff just to see where they're getting the ideas that they get. I do think he's a hardcore, I'm going to say what helps my side, but he has this thing he does, the change my mind thing. He has people,
Mm-hmm.
so this and this I believe in, change my mind.
Yep.
Which is a great idea, but he doesn't want anyone to change his mind. Like, you're not having a discussion. He already has set belief. His
Yep.
goal is not to talk to a person about what they believe. His goal is, I'm going to make this person look stupid for the next 45 minutes.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
what's the point of having, why are we even doing it?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, the change of mind thing, it's very well thought out, because what it does is it forces an argument. Change my mind. Someone who says that wants an argument. They're not looking for acceptance. They're looking, and is that a bad thing? Sometimes it's not a bad thing to have an argument. I mean, I was somebody that was very, very against, not the Second Amendment, but, you know, about certain things with guns, you know, magazine capacities, etc. I'm going, you know, not this Saturday, but next Saturday, you know, I'm going to be able to go purchase a gun, because, you know, I've changed. You know, there's certain things, certain beliefs, life events. You know, you have kids, and all of a sudden you go, you know, you want to be able to protect your family, and you know, there's certain things that that you need to do that, especially in the society we have today. So it's okay to change your beliefs, and that's the other thing that I feel like we're so afraid that if I change, I show that I'm weak. No.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to work towards the truth, you know, and it's like a lost art, and people think you're weak if you're not sticking to, this is my belief. This is if I change, then you're, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I actually say that a lot of, and I'm going to use the Republicans for this, or the conservatives, but there was a lot of people who were talking crap about Donald Trump before he became president. And then now all of a sudden they're the ones supporting him. So you want to say to that person, like, okay, so you were wrong, right? Like, why should I believe you now? You were wrong then. But I do think we should be more accepting of people who maybe change their mind, or are not afraid to admit, hey, you have a good point. I mean, I've actually said that to a lot of people I've talked to in person, online. They'll say something and I'm like, all right, you got a good point there. Like, there's not, you don't have to feel like, it goes back to your very first point. Like, there's nothing wrong with losing or having someone else be right about something. Like, we don't have to feel like, oh shit, I got owned, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you watch all those YouTube clips, it's like, oh, look at this person get owned by, it's like, you know, what do we even, you know, like, that's all it's about. You have to make the person look stupid. It's not about having a conversation.
Yeah, and that starts when people are younger. You see it all the time, you know, whether it's on the basketball court, or you know, kids doing, you know, making fun of each other. It could be through rap battles, making fun, you know, you know, I crossed someone up. All right, great, you crossed somebody up, but guess what? You still lost by 30 points. And all you care about is getting that big reaction, like, I made that person look bad. Even though really the whole point of the game is to win the game, and you still lost by 30 points, even though you might have had the best move of the night. But then they go home, they still feel good. And the same thing happens in politics. It's like, well, I might have lost the debate, but everybody's going to remember that I had the best one-liner of the night, and that's why I won the debate. And so we're looking at things for the wrong reasons.
Yes, which I think is one of the bad things about social media, is that, like, you'll get the clicks by having that best one-liner. Like, you won't necessarily win the debate, but if you had one thing that made people, you know, be like, oh my God, like, you're going to get clicks on your YouTube clip, right? Mm-hmm. Which you brought up a really good point, which I think more than ever, I think sports, if done correctly, would be a great thing for the kids coming up. Because, I mean, I remember we used to play football, and you'd beat somebody, but we always shook hands at the end of the games. The coaches would make sure, like, hey, be polite to these people. Like, you know, you don't want to be rude. And, you maybe we should be pushing more of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like look at football. We all have the same goal. The goal's to win. We all went to the same training. We all worked hard. We all had the pursuit to do what we needed to do to win. And maybe we were better prepared. Maybe we did have a better system in place, and that's why we did win, and that's why we'll continue to win. But that's what it should be about, not like, oh, well, we're just better than you. And that's kind of where it's at now. It's not there's no work to really, and then okay, you win, and then what's the point then? So you win, are you supposed to be satisfied with that? Is that good enough, or is it to kind of make everybody else better after that? When you look at the political thing, and for me, like, we're supposed to be the most inclusive country in the world. We're supposed to be, the greatest melting pot going. We're getting away from that, and that's what makes us better than the other countries.
Yeah.
And if we forget that, then that's not the American way. And if people really are patriotic, then that's what we should be striving for. But at the same time too, there are rules and regulations on certain things that not everybody always sees eye to eye with. So I think we have to meet somewhere in the middle. That you do have to earn your way to be here, and you have to do the right things and
Yes,
do things legally. And those are some tough conversations, but
yeah. Well, and like you said, meeting in the middle, and people have always said that about politics, and especially nowadays, where like people are saying, no, what do you mean meet in the middle? Like, I'm not going to give. Like, it's almost like if you say, oh, let's meet in the middle, like you're giving up. But one of my favorite sayings, I heard it a couple years ago, was that mostly the best answer to an argument is, or the best compromise is when people both leave unsatisfied. So if you have two people trying to get something, or two groups of people, and they're both like, okay, we'll give a little bit, but we're not totally happy, that's probably the right answer, because we all compromise to do it. And everything else we do, we compromise with. I mean, you're married, you have kids. When you're married, compromise is part of it. It's not all me, it's not all you. It's we all live in this house, and we all come to something that we can both be somewhat okay with. Yep. But now it's like, no, it's either my way or it's their way, and there's no in between. And I just don't think you're ever going to be happy with that. Like, you're always going to have a fight back, right? So, but it's I could talk to you for hours. I'm trying to keep these around 45 minutes. But two things I want to do. One, is there anything that you just want to say, like, about any situation, politics, this policy, that policy?
Oh, just in general. I mean, I think, no matter. So I'm gonna hit a topic that people will talk about and will continue to talk about for a long time. But whether there's an agenda or not, the word BLM, Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
I saw I forget the comedian's name, but he did it back in 2000, I think 16, way before this, everything has been going crazy. And it's just about matter, not are better. They just matter. They matter. They should be equal to life. And you see like the all lives, of course, all lives matter. They all matter. But the problem is that they're just not equal right now.
Yes.
They're not, so, I'm not pushing if because sometimes I think it gets lost and you correct me at some point, but I feel like people think that Black Lives Matter is a political group. And it may be, but at the same time, until people say that, hey, look, we're all equal, we are all equal, and that includes African Americans, that's my part of it. And I think that gets taken out of context a lot of times, and everyone's so stuck up on politics. Throw politics out the window. I mean, am I as equal to Barack Obama? Well, he's a much more powerful person. I'm never going to ever touch his success. But people would say that my life is probably as meaningful as his life, right? But, that's the president of the United States, former president of the United States. Now, you put some guy who, grew up and is poor in New Haven right now, and someone who's incredibly rich right now in the place of power. I don't feel like people look at those lives being equally, relevant. And just it's tough to tell. You look at some of these videos. I would love, I know we were talking about something yesterday, but you'd love to see the body cams and maybe just some different angles, and you get one perspective on the camera. But it sure as heck sometimes looks like people don't get treated the same way.
Yes.
And some of those statistics make you kind of cringe and go, something doesn't seem right here. And people use the word systematic racism, and I do think whether it's systematic or not, there's reform that needs to happen.
Yes. Yeah. And but just so you know, Barack Obama never won a shoreline championship. Just so you know.
Or a state championship. He didn't win a state championship.
There you go. You got what? You won the state in football. Didn't you win it in basketball too?
Yeah. Yep. Played some basketball. And I was All-State. I don't think Barack Obama was ever All-State. So.
Exactly. He
might have been a better basketball player than me. I don't know.
Probably not.
Debatable.
Yes. Now, yeah, you definitely had a great point with everything you just said, but it's I honestly do feel that most people agree. Like, if you talk about Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, stuff like that, I think obviously we're in a situation where people just want to fight with each other right now, but it depends on what your definition of that is, right? So I was actually going to do a podcast before this, and it was all about white privilege, right? And I think almost everyone agrees that there's some form of it, but it's what your definition of that is. So again, Black Lives Matter. When I think about that, I think, okay, they're saying we want Black lives to matter as much as everyone else's. Not that they matter more. But that being said, someone who maybe thinks like, oh, they're saying that only their lives matter. I don't know why you would think that, but hey, maybe you do think that, right? And so it all depends on how you define what is being said. And he's back.
I think it was my my area of the house.
No problem. So, that's fine. I'll edit it out. But right. but yeah, I think you had a great point on that. And I just think that because I totally agree with your definition of it, but there's some people who say things that it's like, okay, well, if you're gonna categorize it that way, well, then I don't agree with you. But again, we're not having a kind of dialogue that makes us talk about this at all, right? It's just, oh, if you say this, oh. And I will admit, when Black Lives Matter came out and they started doing that, I'm not the biggest fan of it.
All lives matter.
Yeah, but then it was like, oh, we have to say this. It's like, well, why are you saying that? Are you just trying to get a reaction, right?
A small percentage of people that are making some pretty big mistakes, and we got to fix that.
Yeah.
So, when and where that happens, I don't know. But I do think, like you said, like if the dialogue is in the right place, for having these conversations more face to face and, not behind a screen on Facebook, even this kind of forum, people want to have a conversation. I think social media is a great thing. Have that conversation on social media, look at each other and understand where people are coming from, because there's points to be had on all sides. You know,
Yes.
there's not one right way to do things. And I think the more we talk to each other, the more we realize that really, for the most part, I'd say probably 90% of us agree with the same thing.
Yes, I totally agree with you. We always talk about this. I teach martial arts, and I'm always saying this in my martial arts class, but there's no 100% right answer to everything. I joke with my students, I'm like, if there was a move that worked 100% of the time, I would just teach you that and you'd be good. But it doesn't exist. There's no perfect, right? And I think a lot of times people are always looking for a perfect policy, a perfect situation. Like, you can take any policy and there's a downside to it.
Mhm.
Obviously, as a politician, you don't want to talk about those downsides because you want everyone to think that, oh, it's going to be fine. But there's nothing you can do that is not going to have some kind of downside to it. So, you know, I wish that politicians were able to talk about that without people being like, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to vote for you unless you tell me it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why, you know, a lot of you know, a good friend of yours, he has a sister who teaches English in school, and that's why they try to push the Socratic seminars, so that you have to listen to both sides. You have to be able to ask relevant questions that are going to make the other side think and respond, and give them a chance to respond. Not just, all right, I'm gonna bury you right here, and then you're gonna start to respond, and then I'm gonna shut you down. I'm not gonna let you finish. It's gonna be on my terms. You know, I'm gonna make this thing. I'm gonna tailor it towards what I want it to go towards, not a real pursuit towards the truth.
Yes. And that's why I wish like more people would go into conversations without the feeling of, man, I'm going to look like the failure, right? Like, maybe, I'm sure a lot of people do it, but if I go into a conversation, I'll really listen to why this person thinks the way they do. You know, it's not just like, okay, you're wrong and I'm just going to prove you wrong. Like, all right, well, maybe you have a point. I know it's hard to do for a lot of people you know, with everything going on and where we're at, but I don't know. I just don't feel, if someone has a better point than me on a subject, I don't feel like I'm the wrong one. I don't feel like a failure because of it.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's being a great martial arts student or a great student of academics, if you come out and you agree with everything, you're gonna ask for your money back. You're gonna say, well, what did I learn?
Yeah. Yeah.
if you just reassured me that everything that I do is right, I've learned absolutely nothing. So I hope I fail a lot of times. If I fail, that means I learned something.
Yes.
And as a coach, like, whether I win the game or not, there's going to be moments within that, and I have to reevaluate and go, I could have done this better here. And you learn from those mistakes. You don't learn from, you know, you put the film on, you show someone, you know, doing something perfect. What do you learn from that? You know, other than, okay, if you're going to diagram a play, this is exactly how it should be. But you're not gonna learn from that. And making mistakes is the best way to learn. Or, you know, being informed that, hey, maybe the way I used to see things isn't 100% accurate. Not that it's not accurate, it's just not 100% accurate. And there's little pieces that I can tweak to make myself better.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point where you can't get better, you plateau, you're never gonna get better.
Yes.
People that can keep moving up in the world and can keep evolving, like, those are the people that aren't afraid to fail. And failure is something that should be part of life. We don't want to, you know, it's difficult to deal with, but it's maybe the best thing that can happen sometimes.
All right. I'm going to end it there because, and this is why I wanted to talk to you and have you on the podcast, because you kind of said what I just said, but just way, way better than I said it. So that was really good. No, I really honestly feel that was a great way to explain it. So I thank you very much for being on this. In the future, when I have other ones, I definitely want to talk to you again, because like I said, I just really think that people like you who are willing to listen to other people, who don't shove your beliefs down other people's throat. I just really like having conversations with you. And you talked about getting your pistol permit, your license. I just got mine recently. I'm sending this stuff in. But one of my goals for doing this was to offer concealed carry classes at my school. Yeah, because I'd never had my pistol permit, but through all my years of training, I've done a lot of classes on how to carry the right way, how to, all the stuff, the tactical stuff. So it's something I want to start at my school. So when I do, I'll let you know about it.
Yeah, because it's one thing to own a gun and to be able to shoot a gun and hit a target, but the whole point is to be able to protect yourself. And you don't get to sit there, look at your aiming point, look at you just don't.
It's just like anything
I
else.
would love the concealed carry. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's like anything else. You have to practice it. Like, if you got your license driving a car and you didn't drive a car for 5 years and then all of a sudden you got in it, you wouldn't drive it well.
Right.
If you get your pistol permit, you get your pistol, you get your gun, whatever, put it down, don't touch it for 5 years, and then you're expected to use it.
Yeah.
So actually doing courses where you're actually learning how to do that and handling the weapon more, I think that's one of the safer ways. I mean, there's
well, you even just using it isn't enough. Like, because if you're just sitting there and you're slowly squeezing the trigger, kind of lining up, you're looking at I'm losing the vocabulary, but you can kind of line up to your target in the little spot and whatever. That's easy to do. Well, and actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not fair. 'Cause some people they're not very good with that. For me, I'm a pretty good shot actually, naturally. But in terms of like, if I actually had to like go down the stairs and pull out my gun, like those are different things. I mean,
exactly.
And that's part of protecting yourself, and you're not gonna be able to do that if you don't practice it. So
yes. Well, we talk about that in martial arts all the time. I'm always telling my students, like, if you don't practice this and practice it under stress, like in Krav Maga, we actually do drills that purposely are supposed to stress you out. And the whole point is, if you're in a situation where you don't feel stressed, you're never training your brain to do it. So if you're always just at the range, just doing, the target's there, yeah, you're getting better. But if you ever really have to do it, it'll be stressful. You have to train your brain to do it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's something that could be really good for, not having the mistakes of someone shooting wrong or shooting when they shouldn't, or, I don't know. I just think help.
It's like anything else. Like you could have the heaviest punch in the world. You could knock the crap out of a heavy bag, but if you don't get a live body in front of you, you get in that ring and it's gonna be a different story.
Yeah, I tell my students, I use this analogy all the time. If you do martial arts and you never spar, it's like driving a car in a parking lot. Like you never take it out on the road. It's just in a safe little parking lot. So it's the same idea.
Yeah.
All right, Kev. Well, thank you so much. Also, I just saw on Facebook, apparently LaMarco they had the baby.
Awesome.
Yes.
Good for him.
So I'm going to send him a message. And if he watches this, shout out to LaMarco, even though we probably disagree on almost everything.
Yeah, he'll have plenty of things from me. But, one thing I appreciate about Kevin, though, is that, he totally disagrees, like, politically. But at the end of the day, if he listens to, we have a mutual respect. If he listens to me, he hears things differently. And it doesn't mean, it's not that I'm trying to push my beliefs on him. I don't want to change his beliefs per se. But I just, I appreciate that when he respects somebody, he's going to listen to them. And that's the name of the game. Because if we could all do that, then guess what? We're probably going to all be much closer in terms of how we think.
Yeah.
So,
All right, man. Thank you so much. Have a good night. I'll talk to you online, and again, I'd love to have you on one of these again in the future.
yeah, definitely. And, whatever, put some different personalities on there, and I have no problem talking to whoever, whether it's
All right,
people
man.
that are far left, far right, whatever in the middle, whatever.
All right, Kev. Thank you so much.
Hey, Josh, I'll
All right,
talk to you, man.
talk to you later.
Take care.